In this video we'll look at the organization of small businesses. Organization and structure of small businesses. Well, the publication by Bridge and O'Neill in 2009 deals with this very effectively. And they give a list of headings that we should consider when looking at the organization of small businesses. Starting with top-down, what's meant by that in the context of small business, decision-making within small business, organizational structure within small business, control, and lack of objectivity. So we have various headings that we need to look at in the context of small business, as identified by Bridge and O'Neill. So let's make a start and deal first of all with top down. The business owner is the main person of authority and holds all control of the business. So in terms of organizational structure, the owner of the business is at the apex, is at the top of the structure. And as to whether the owner delegates or not, depends on personality, depends on the culture of the business, it depends perhaps to some extent on the nature of the business and the size of the business. But generally speaking, small businesses tend to be top down. The owner of the business is involved with the business, and the owner is the manager, and therefore all authority resides with the owner. So the owner decides what will happen, what will be done, how it will be done, when it will be finished, the quality of which they work to. So it's a top-down structure, generally speaking. This approach is effective if the business is stable and the business owner or entrepreneur is able to motivate employees through their vision and ambitions. And that is the problem with top-down, that the subordinates, the workers under that person, may find it difficult to accept orders, or may not see the logic in the orders, may not relate to what is required. It could lead to conflict and disputes and ultimately high staff turnover, which is expensive. So there are issues with top-down that need to be considered. The owner, in passing orders from the top, needs to incorporate what is the culture within the business and what will the employees accept and not accept. However, most innovative ideas come from employees. They are in touch with new technologies, economic and social developments. So a valuable source of information resides with the employees, and the problem is, if it's a very hierarchical structure with the manager stroke owner at the very top giving top-down direction, then that valuable source of information may be lost. It's important that the manager deals with the employees in a way which enables the employees to give suggestions and feedback and comments and criticisms, and these are accepted. If they're not accepted, the employees may withhold what they see as erroneous ways, and that could be expensive for the business, or at least not very productive. Decision making. Well, decision making in small businesses is more informal than in large organizations. Excuse me. In large organizations, they tend to have meetings and minutes and proposals and perhaps even modeling and projects to work towards. They may have prototyping to see how some decisions would work in practice. So decision making in large businesses tends to be a complex and very sophisticated one, whereas in small businesses it tends to be very informal. The owner has an idea, and the owner uh, tells the staff to make it according to his or her idea. So that may be a disadvantage. Decision making is a simple process: setting of objectives, making forecasts, evaluating the external environment, and contingency planning. In small businesses, they may make the process quite simple, may set objectives which are easily achieved, perhaps too easily achieved. Perhaps um, they're not exploiting the idea sufficiently. Making forecasts may be guesstimates. They may just guess at what is likely. They're very unlikely to engage in a lot of data collection and analysis. They haven't got time for that. And their evaluation of the external environment may be very piecemeal also, just what they observe around them and what they read in the local press. As for contingency planning, in the event of something untoward happening, they may not be in the position to develop very strong contingency plans, so that if something does happen, they are not prepared or ill prepared for that, and it may be catastrophic in terms of the survival of the business. In large organizations, there is a complex organizational structure with many lines of communication and chains of command, and the decision making is a lengthy process. Mind you, that can be a disadvantage because it may take a long time to make a decision. There may be a lot of criticisms, a lot of meetings. It could be a very expensive process. The large organizations don't have the same flexibility as small companies. But on the other hand, they're very thorough in looking at the proposals. They will research them and test them and discuss them and criticize them. Whereas in a small business, the owner simply decides it's a good idea or it's not a good idea. Do it or don't do it. So it may be better to have a larger organization making more informed decisions. Organizational structure. Well, small business structures tend to be simple with a shorter hierarchical organizational structure. So small businesses, the owner and the workers are in much more contact. They may share almost the same premises, the same workspace. They're in short contact. The distance between them is very short. So in small businesses, it's a very simple structure. There are the workers and there's the employer. In large businesses, there will be line management, departmental management, divisional management, and senior management, much more complex. There tends to be fewer employees, making communications between departments an easier task. So in small businesses, there is probably less communications, and there's a feeling that there's less need for communications. Again, that may be good because it speeds up the managerial process, but it may also be bad because the employees are not being kept informed about developments. They may be worried about job security and about survival of the business, and so the atmosphere may not be that good as a consequence. The structure is simple and allows for flexible working practices. Well, if the owner so decides, then it is the case that the employees may be allowed to have flexible working time. They may be allowed home early or come in late or whatever. It depends on the attitude of the owner. Whereas in larger businesses, it's much more defined and much more set out. Control. Well, all control is taken by one person, the owner. There are no formal or recognized boundaries or hierarchical structures which determine authority and power. There is just the workers, and one step up is the owner. And the owner can be viewed as the line manager, as the departmental manager, as the chief executive, but that one person has got all of the power. And as I said, that means it's easy to have contact with that person. So decision making can be fast. However, the quality of the decision making may be suspect. Larger organizations go through a complex stream of channels and commands and hierarchical structure to set up formal control and management authority. We can imagine larger organizations who have to disseminate information by email or by poster on the company notice board, or have regular meetings with staff. It's costly, it's expensive, and there's no guarantee that the messages will be clearly understood. Whereas in a small business, the contact is directly with the owner. So the message is clearly understood. Control tends to be direct supervision of employees. Smaller organizations do not delve into performance management, training and development programs. Generally speaking, small companies don't have performance management, don't have training programs, and don't engage in any development. Whatever learning happens, it's learning by doing, perhaps under the supervision of the owner, but it's not outsourced to a college or to a training organization. Whereas in larger organizations, the HR department may take responsibility for training and employ outside agencies to deliver that training. Lack of objectivity. Well, smaller businesses lack objectivity. This is a weakness and makes smaller organizations more vulnerable to industry and competitors. Smaller businesses run by the owner. The owner evaluates the situation, whatever situation, but evaluates it subjectively, evaluates it in his or her mind. And since he or she may be the only person of any authority within the business, they have no one to speak to. They have no one to talk over their idea. Which means whatever course of action they take may be the wrong course, because they didn't have the objectivity. They didn't have criticisms and comments and feedbacks and discussion forums. So they are much more vulnerable in terms of decision making. Smaller businesses should employ staff from various skilled backgrounds rather than from local communities. That's a possible solution to the problem. If the owner goes out of the way to employ staff from different skilled backgrounds, then better decision making may flow from that. The reason for that is clear. More skills, wider variety of personality within the organization may mean feedback for the owner, criticisms, suggestions, recommendations. So the more skilled the employees are, the more confident they are to speak up. So rather than just employ people from the local community because that's convenient, perhaps employing skilled workers from further afield may be a better course of action and lead to better decision making. They need to recruit employees that are talented and show innovation. Small businesses are good at innovating. Historically, that's where a lot of invention and innovations came from. But it's necessary for the owner to recognize the innovative potential in situations and in people, and then be prepared to exploit that innovation. Sometimes the owners of small businesses may be very conservative and be reticent to take on anything which looks risky. But of course, in so doing, they may be inhibiting their own growth, the growth of the business. So the need to employ people who are talented and show innovation, who will look at the tasks critically and come up with new ways of working and better ways of working, perhaps more efficient ways of working. So recruitment policy within small business is very important. Not just to have a convenience recruit from the local community policy, but perhaps recruiting the right type of personnel and recognizing that there is a lack of discussion facility for the owner. Recognize that the owner's decisions need to be scrutinized, and the owner, him or herself, should recognize this and seek suggestions and comments. And that would strengthen the whole structure of small business. That's the reference I mentioned right at the start, and that's all we're going to deal with here. So let's leave it at that and say thank you for watching.